Hey there, this is B. Wendy Jackson. I wanted to quickly interrupt you before you listen to the next episode. Listen, thank you for your support with the podcast. Those of you who've been following me since January 2020, I really appreciate you. I want to hear from you. You can send me a message at info@AAOP as in Paul, C as in Charlie, S as in Snake.net. I would love to hear from you. Also, if you have not rated and reviewed the podcast, would you do that for me, please? It also allows people to find the podcast. This is growing. The podcast is growing, and I'm so excited. I've had to update my little commercial because my name has changed and my website has changed in terms of where you receive the books. So if you have not purchased your books, I got the opportunity and the gift to write two books. The first one is Empowerment for You, Encouragement for Your Emotional and Spiritual Wellness. Listen, I love this book. It is definitely a book that invites you to experience hope, help, and healing. And every page, every chapter is really filled with insight, information, and inspiration to be able to help empower you, to be able to help you walk in freedom. I include specific practical tips to help you take charge and take possession of your thoughts and really just control your behaviors or impact your behaviors and impact some changes in your life, cause some changes in your life. And then the second book is Empower to Empower You Reflection Workbook. Love this book as well because it's based on specific podcast episodes where you listen to some episodes and you are able to dive deep into some reflection. I give you some prompts so that you don't have to wonder or think about, well, how do I start to reflect? What do I even write? The prompts are already provided for you. Isn't that awesome? So there are also blank pages for you to journal or whatever you want to do, right? And so I just invite you. You can go on Amazon and just look for B. Wendy. So I don't want to cause any confusion. My maiden name is Bob. So people have known me as B. Wendy Bob for so long. And then July 2022, I was blessed to be married. And so now I'm B. Wendy Jackson. So Amazon, you could just search for the books B. Wendy Bob, and you will find those two books come up. If you have any questions, you could email me. You can also find the resources on my website, AAOPCS.net. That's AAO, P as in Paul, C as in Charlie, S as in Snake.net. Listen, I look forward to hearing from you. May the the books continue to add value to your lives. I'm really thankful for this opportunity to just encourage people all around the world. All right. Enjoy the next episode and have an amazing day on purpose. Hello, everyone. This is B. Wendy Jackson, your podcast host of the Empower to Empower You podcast. I hope that wherever you are in the world that you are doing well. If this is your first time joining the podcast today, I want you to remind you that Empower to Empower You podcast is about all things Jesus Christ, mental health, anything to help empower you and help you become the better version of yourself. You know, in a world where there's so much pain, so much tragedy, so much, when you hear breaking news, it's going to be something negative. Why not tune into something positive? Why not tune in to something that's going to inspire you, something that's going to make you feel better, something that's going to want you to be better, something that's going to glorify God, most importantly. And so I'm just excited to be a voice and to use my voice for the glory of the Lord. If you've been following me since January 2020, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for those of you who have shared the podcast with someone else. I definitely want to ask you to rate and review the podcast episodes because this is how many people are going to find it. And many times I have amazing guests, and sometimes I find those guests either through people that I know, through someone that I've worked with, through connections. However, y'all, I'm excited today because this guest I was introduced to by social media. Honestly, the Lord just connected us together. We're on a group with walking at home with Leslie's walking group, and there are thousands of people on that group. It's just a group of motivation who follow Leslie Sanson's walking program. But really, you're just posting your workouts, whether you walk with Leslie or whether you walked outside or whether you worked at the gym. And so I use that group for my fitness, motivation, inspiration, encouragement, and it has become a fitness family. And through that group, I met this amazing woman, of a sister in Christ. Her name is Colleen. And so Colleen lives in central New York. She is, I'll just tell you a little bit about her because I really want her to be able to share more. She's married. She's, as of June this year, she'll be married 19 years. She homeschools her children and have been doing that since her oldest started kindergarten in 2011. She has her oldest daughter at 17 years old, a junior in high school. Her son is 14 in the 8th grade. And then she has a youngest daughter who is 11 in the 6th grade. Colleen enjoys anything to make her family's life better. She loves gardening. She loves crocheting. She loves making soap. I just love that. And if I lived nearby, I would want to learn all those things that she's doing. So, Colleen, I want to invite you to the podcast, and y'all listen, get ready for the title and get ready for such an impactful testimony and message. This is going to blow your socks off. You need to have your popcorn. If you're driving, you may need to pull over. If you're at the gym, you might just need to turn off the music for a second if you can. Of course, you cannot turn off the music in the gym, but just get ready to tune into the message, get your tea, get your coffee. The title of this podcast episode is Stuttering and Confidence. Is it possible? Is it possible for you to stutter and have confidence? So Colleen, welcome to the podcast.
And thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Well, if you can, I was looking at, okay, what are some statistics? What do we already know about, stuttering? I did find like a generic statistic on 3 millions of Americans stutter. I didn't even know that there was a National Stuttering Association. I didn't even know that. If you can you tell us a little bit more about what you know about the statistics of stuttering and how common it is?
With the statistics, I'm not up on that, but
Sure.
I do know stuttering is more common in men than in women. When I was 11 years old, I went to a speech program,
Mhm.
and out of 50 people, there were 5 girls, including myself, 45 men. It is more common in men. So I used to grow up wondering, well, why me?
Yeah,
Lord,
definitely.
why me?
Yes.
But it's my brother stutters. My son had an early childhood onset, but it stopped. So it is common, but I don't have many people in my world who do stutter.
Yes. No, I appreciate you saying that. Thinking about stuttering, I remember I was born in St. Lucia, and I remember that early on I was born late. I was born very late, and in St. Lucia, where there's not a lot of access to resources at the time, and I remember because they thought I was going to be mute. They thought I was going to be deaf and mute. I wouldn't speak for like the first few years of my life, and so when I did start speaking, there were some words that were difficult to say or articulate. And so I remember stuttering, but it was very short-lived. I just believe that the Lord helped me because I never went to stuttering. And I wasn't long enough for it to affect. I'm sure there was some insecurity. It just wasn't long enough for me to remember the impact. But how has this impacted you?
Well, the short answer is it's been a lifetime of embarrassment,
Yeah,
guilt,
yeah.
shame, anxiety to the max. That's
Mm,
what it's been. And I
mm,
didn't know that, actually. I've stuttered ever since I was I guess 2. It just went on up. I hated school, hated reading in front of the class, hated speaking in front of people.
mm.
It really impacted that. Um, I used to always carry an underlining feeling of just being inferior.
Mm.
Just continually focusing on my voice my speech and just what my how my words sounded, and it just I had a continual focus of being inward. And but what has changed is I still focus on my speech, but it's to improve my speech, it's to improve my breathing, to improve my tension. I get a lot of tension in my throat.
Mhm.
It's to focus on my strategies. Um, it's the focus is no longer self-shaming
Mm.
over every word I stutter. So the impact has been severe emotionally.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
now the actual disability is mild, um, but I just didn't know that.
Sure, sure.
Mhm.
As you're talking, you informed me about how you had learned that there is a stuttering iceberg, and I looked it up before we met, and definitely some of the emotions that somebody can experience with stuttering. I wasn't aware of that. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely, I wasn't aware of it either
Sure.
until I went to speech therapy.
Yeah.
I started back in February. And the reason why I even reached out, because speech therapy for me over when I was growing up was a disaster. And they were focusing on the wrong things, on my on the way I formed words, and how words and would would how just to form words. And that wasn't my problem. My problem was really in me. But I
Mhm.
realized I learned fear, frustration, embarrassment, shame, anxiety, denial, isolation,
Mhm.
hopelessness, guilt. I had about every one of them except denial. I wasn't in denial about the fact that I stuttered.
Mhm.
But um and I didn't know I carried all this. I didn't know at all. The shame came from being, as a little girl, I had a family member tell me that I didn't need to talk this way, and to stop it.
Mm.
I had no idea that I internalized that and went on. So I was driving home from therapy and I said to myself, why do I feel as though I'm doing something wrong? Why do I feel as I'm guilty? And my mind went back to that. So I cannot believe instance at 5 years old had this much impact in my life.
Can you take a pause for a second? First of all, thank you for sharing this with me. And so I just want to make sure I heard you clearly. You're saying that you believed this narrative, if you will, about yourself because of a family member who told you at 5 years old to stop it, as if you were the one that was causing the stuttering, as if you were doing something wrong.
I could have, they believed I could have stopped it, because what happened is I would stop talking and then just gather myself, and then my words would come out clearer.
Mm.
But and they thought that I could stop it. But that's where the shame came from. The embarrassment is just being embarrassed.
Mhm.
Being embarrassed that I can't talk, or I didn't talk as everyone else. The
Wow.
fear is just fear of being made fun of, fear of the stuttering, fear of what people are going to think of me.
Mhm.
Anxiety comes from the fear of anticipating the a stutter. Then I stutter over it, and then I get anxiety because I stuttered, and then I anticipate more words, and it just does not end.
The
And
cycle.
the anxiety was, I used to walk around my house here with my stomach tight. And I said,
Mm.
why is I live in a wonderful home. I have a wonderful family. What do I have to be so anxious over? And I realized after I started my therapy, my stuttering and the emotions attached to it were affecting me physically. I had no idea.
I am so grateful for awareness. So you mentioned, let me go back to something you said. This is so good. Like me as a counselor, my mind is like, there's so much to dig in, but we don't have all day. You mentioned that earlier on, speech therapy was a disaster.
Yeah.
Because, and what I heard you say is that speech therapy was a disaster because they were focusing on phonological sounds and sounding the word out. And you speak to that a little bit more, if you will.
So when I was in school, I went through speech therapy. My school had a therapist, and they were wonderful people.
Sure.
I do not speak anything against my therapists.
Sure.
It's their method, and looking back, I don't know that they understood it, and I don't, because there's been a lot of research that's happened in the 30 years that I've been out of therapy. But I remember being in my therapy class, and I loved speech therapy. It was just a place of comfort. It was so relaxing. It was just me and her. And she'd have me read, and I read perfectly. And they couldn't figure out why I was reading so well here. But as soon as they put me back in that classroom, it was broken speech and and tension, and it was it was just awful. But what I wish they would have done, I wish that the teacher worked more with my therapist and said, you need to come into this classroom and listen to what I'm experiencing. This is what you're experiencing.
Yes.
And that never happened. When I was 11, my parents sent me to a fluency clinic here in New York, and they focused on easy onset. Now, let me preface this. I think they were accepting kids as a trial basis. Now, easy onset is you start, like, for instance, take the word hope. You go, hope, courage, and you start out easy to relieve that tension and to not have so much pressure in the lips and all that. And that worked okay, but I still had tension in my throat. They were not focusing, that I remember,
Sure.
on the emotions heavily.
Mm-hmm.
I remember sitting in my instructor's office just bawling one day because I wasn't doing this therapy the way he wanted it. And I was just bawling and bawling. And I remember leaving saying, I'd rather stutter the rest of my life than do this. And I had guilt after that because my parents sent me to here hoping it would cure me, make me fluent.
Sure. Sure.
It didn't. I was 11 years old. I could not process implementing skills into my life. I was too young.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I couldn't talk and do both. It was way too hard, way too tiring. And I look back on it, I'm not angry about any of that. I'm not upset. It wasn't my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking back on it, I had to deal with my emotions. I had to get out of my childhood and just grow up, essentially, and
Sure. Sure.
and deal with it.
Wow. Even working with the professionals or the experts, even those things were shame triggers for you, it sounds like, because you felt like you're not living up to the expectations that they had for you.
Fluency was the expectation. And what I learned in my counseling now is that those programs that those fluency programs are discouraged.
Sure.
by grad school now.
Mm,
That's what my therapist said. And she goes, I'm not going to teach you how to be fluent. What I'm going to teach you is how to be confident and live your life. And I'm going to give you a strategy so you can stutter easier. And if you
mm,
become fluent, then that's okay. I only had 10 sessions. And I'll tell you what, in those 10 sessions, they were more helpful than in the years and years of therapy that I had,
wow.
because
So,
fluency wasn't the goal.
which is a great segue to the next question, Colleen, is I hear that there's been a shift, right? There's a shift from, you had all of these emotions associated with stuttering, the shame, the guilt, the fear, the anxiety, the isolation, etc. And then there was a shift at when you started to move towards the confidence. At what point did that happen? Did that happen when you met the new speech therapist, or talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, my confidence started as soon as I went to my new speech therapist in February. Um, she brought to my attention this stuttering iceberg, and
Okay.
I saw that, and it blew my mind.
Wow.
I had no idea either, but I looked at each and every problem and I said, I got to get rid of this stuff. And so that was the shift. So courage and confidence replaces fear. Acceptance replaces frustration. Community replaces isolation. Hope replaces hopelessness. Comfort and kindness replaces shame. So I had to put on these this new iceberg, so to
Mm,
speak, and it all happened right in therapy. And um, that's when I started. I had to say, I have to be confident. I have to accept the way God made me. And it didn't happen right then. But what happened was I said, okay, God made me a certain way. He gave me a weakness as everyone else has. How can it glorify him? How can I use this and find the good in it? And that would really help me go a long way in just accepting it and finding God's hand in in helping other people. That's my heart. So if this helps other people, hey, I'll just
yeah.
stutter away.
I love it. There are so many people who are using their what may seem as limitations for God's glory. There's a man named Nick Vujicic who
Yes.
was born with no legs and no legs, no arms,
Yep.
and yet God uses him. He travels all over the world and he speaks. And I have to still I need to listen to one of his speeches because I just heard his powerful. And then there's another man who has cerebral palsy who speaks unto the glory of God and teaches the word, and it's hard to understand his speech. But he doesn't allow that to limit him. We serve a limitless God. So I love the shift that happens and that. Did you have to seek, when you say therapy, was there any, did you have to see an emotion, like a mental health therapist as well, to unpack the emotions, or did the healing come through the new speech therapist only?
Yeah. So she actually she had my my therapist had suggested that I see an emotional therapist, and I said, well, just wait, because I see this therapy right now. I picture things in my head, and I said, I see this is like someone digging for gold in the river. And I said, that's what we're doing. And you as a therapist are the water, pouring water over this mud and this muck,
Yes.
looking for gold. And I said, if there's anything left after my therapy, then I will go and see. But it worked out that was enough. That really was enough. And I just praise God for it. I can't say anything else about that. That is, he gets the glory for that. Absolutely.
I celebrate with you. You know, when you were saying, I was trying to catch all of it, but I missed it. Acceptance to replace
Oh yeah.
frustration, hopelessness hopefulness to replace hopelessness, comfort and kindness to replace shame. And then there's a couple others. It's almost like you learn to replace and rewrite your narrative.
Oh, absolutely.
Love that.
It's Paul's principle in Ephesians 4, the put on, put off principle. We have to, we can't be entertaining these lies from Satan.
Yes.
Absolutely not. And community is a huge one. Community, when we naturally as stutterers want to isolate because of all these emotions, it is the worst. The worst. We need community and people.
Oh my gosh. I just love you, Colleen. Okay. So I have to ask you this because I know that you also a sister in Christ, a believer in Jesus Christ and the Word of God. You know, can you speak to any, you just mentioned one, scriptures that helped you to, that helped to anchor you through this? I know that for those of us who are familiar with the scriptures, Moses had a stuttering problem. You know, he essentially said to God, you want me to do what? I can't speak.
I can't do a podcast. What are you talking about? Here we are, right?
And I have to tell the people, like initially when Colleen and I corresponded, when I mentioned podcast, I don't remember exactly what you said, but I know you freaked out. Like, no, I I have to get back to you on that one. So, what are some scriptures that you found to comfort you, to just anchor you throughout this difficult time?
Well, Psalm 23:3 stands out, and I think Nick actually used one of this verse in one of his videos. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He did that. He restored my soul. My soul was filled with these negative emotions, and he just restored me. Shame. I need to know who I am in Christ. For we are his workmanship created in Christ Jesus unto good works,
Ephesians
which
2:10.
God hath before ordained that we should walk in them. That's Ephesians 2:10. I'm his workmanship. There's no shame in his workmanship. Exodus 4:10-12. Moses said unto the Lord, "Oh my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech, and my slow tongue." And the Lord said unto him, "Who hath made man's mouth? Or who maketh the dumb or deaf or seeing or blind? Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth and teach thee what thou shalt say." That's my verse.
Love it.
Hopelessness. I could go on, but Psalm 34:17-20, I won't read it all, but the righteous cry and the Lord heareth and deliver them out of their troubles. For I know the thoughts that I think toward thee, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Jeremiah 29:11. Fear not, for I am with thee. Be thou not dismayed, for I am thy God. Isaiah 4:10. I mean, I could go on, but those have been anchoring scriptural verses.
I love
Absolutely.
it. I love it. So what would you say as we prepare to wrap up? This is so a powerful, impactful, and I cannot wait to share this with the world. And thank you for your courage. And most importantly, thank you for your obedience. Thank you for your obedience, because my prayer, our prayer is that somebody's going to hear this and they're going to say, oh my goodness, me too. Like I have this, maybe for some people it's not stuttering. Maybe it's a disability. Maybe it's a developmental disability. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a physical disability, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Can I walk in confidence? Can I really add value to people's lives? Do I have something to offer? Can I be used by God? Even if I have this, what's called a deficiency in an area. And so for somebody else who may be struggling with insecurities because they stutter, what might you say to them?
Several things. First, I would encourage speech therapy. Absolutely. Number one, conquer your fear. What am I afraid of? I
Yeah.
had to ask myself, is someone going to hit me, punch me? Is someone going to do horrible things to me because I stutter? Probably not. That hasn't happened. Don't avoid words. We as stutterers avoid words because we are gonna stutter over them, and it just increases the anxiety. It dumbs down our conversations. So put those words into practice in private and keep saying those words over and over. This stuttering, our brains need to be retrained, and it's just practice, practice, practice.
Mhm.
I would say push yourself. Anxiety is going to cripple you.
Mhm.
We need to create confidence in ourselves, and to do that we must say yes to things we'd otherwise say no to. We must say yes, even if we're going to stutter. We need to say yes.
Mhm.
Do the opposite of what our inclination is. Have a mindset of helping others. What am I good at? Instead of being so self-focused, which is, this really creates that project outward. What can I be? What am I good at? And what can I do to serve others with? What
Yes.
desires has God given me? And just go for it. Boosting confidence will reduce the anxiety. I mean, this podcast would have killed me even a year ago.
Yes.
I have no anxiety about it. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes. Yeah.
And I would say, when someone is going to be in a new situation, I'd say address that elephant in the room. Tell them that you stutter. Let people know that and get it in the open, because they know, or they will find out. I know that I stutter. So just tell us what we already know and get that elephant out of the room and proceed.
Yes.
And I would say find support. Do not isolate yourself. Again, we can learn from each other. I have learned tricks from my Facebook groups that have been entirely helpful. And I can't even, they've been such a blessing.
And you mentioned the Facebook groups that you mentioned. Thank you for, I'm going to say something else in what you just said. Thank you for that. So the biggest thing I heard you say is, confront the fear. Confront the fear. One of the only ways to overcome fear is to confront it, is to say it, to really, speak to the elephant in the room and to be able to say it. And you told me that when our first conversation, that I have a stuttering problem. You did share that with me. And so in terms of the Facebook groups, you mentioned that there is one called from what is it called?
From
From
stuttering to confidence and Stein on stuttering.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that in the show notes. Stuttering to Confidence and Stein,
On,
Stein on
yes.
Stutter. Yes,
Yep.
so those groups, because it's going to be, community is so important. We were not made to live life in isolation, for sure. And then also, a person who stutters does not need sympathy.
No, we don't. Please do not feel sorry for us. That's worse. Please don't continue to just acknowledge it and and cripple your face when I'm trying to get my words out. Just do not even bring attention to it. It's like someone crying in the middle of a conversation. Just let them cry and continue with the conversation. And it makes it, and bringing attention to it just makes the anxiety worse because now it's noticed, and it makes the conversation so much worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great, great, great. Oh, you are definitely helping somebody today, Miss Colleen. So there's a lot of great things about to happen. You are breaking through this. You made a decision to confront fear. I don't know if you want to share with the world about your next steps. So what's next for you?
Okay, so after much prayer, before I go on to that, I wanted to expand on the couple of Facebook groups.
Yes.
Stein on Stuttering is led by a gentleman, Larry Stein, and he has a website and a blog, and I think it's called steinonstuttering.com or .org. And he is a gentleman that convulsively stuttered. He would shake and he has a testimony. He has a story and on how he had overcame it, and he has videos that are just, when I saw his videos, I said, oh my goodness, someone else can articulate what's going on in my head. How is that possible?
Wow.
And he just blew me away. So I kept watching those videos over and over and over again. The other group, From Stuttering to Confidence, is led by a lady, Lois Cookie Green, and she's also a believer. And she has she stutters. She used to be more severe than what she is now, but she has an amazing testimony about how she still stutters. She's, I think, 70, but she has an amazing testimony of how she became confident in it and just achieved such great things. And she has been an encouragement to me as well. I reached out to her as well, and we've been in contact. She's amazing. Future plans right now, it looks to be I'm going to graduate school starting in August of 2024 for social work.
Social work.
I can't, when you asked me 10 years ago or even 5, I would say no school. No way. But there has been a shift.
Yes.
And man, I cannot wait to start. So my daughter, she's going to be starting college then as well. So she goes, Mom, we're going to have to call and tell each other all about our college experiences. You know, she's so funny. But and beyond that, whatever the Lord has for this, please show me, because I'd love to help. So
yeah. I love it. Well, Colleen, I enjoyed this conversation with you. I cannot wait for this to go live. I'll talk with you offline in terms of when it is going to go live. And I just know that it will add so much value to people that can relate, that stutter or just experiencing any of the emotions that you spoke to. I believe that this is such a relevant message because there are people that are really believing the lies of the enemy, which are the lies are hindering them from being able to walk in their purpose, being able to live life with the abundant life that Jesus promised us, that he gave to us. And so I thank you for your courage today. I'm so excited for you. I'm so honored to connect with you and to have you here. And gosh, if anybody wanted to connect with you, do you have any way that you want them to do that?
Yes, my email is more than please reach out that way. I think you can still message me on Facebook.
Yes.
I'd be more than happy to chat with anyone.
Mhm.
I'm not a professional at all. I am just a person who stutters. That's it. And I have one experience. So
Yes.
that's it. But yes, please, I'd love to talk with anyone with any questions.
Great. And I'll put your email in the show notes for sure.
Okay.
Okay, y'all. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I want you to share this episode. If you know somebody that can relate to this podcast, share it with somebody else. Feel free to connect with Miss Colleen. Feel free to also jump on the groups that she mentioned. I'm going to put the information in the show notes. This is B. Wendy Jackson. I'll be back next time with another amazing podcast. Have a great day on purpose.